Alright, Blackmagic Design just released a firmware update for the Pocket Cinema line of cameras, the 4K, 6K, and 6K Pro in this video. I just want to talk about some of the updates here on these cameras. And first of all, let's kind of talk about the updates that all three cameras got. They all have them in common now. So first up is this RGB histogram right here. So down below beforehand, it used to be a luminance histogram, which was a pretty useless exposure tool on the Pocket Cinema camera. 4K, 6K, and 6K Pro just wasn't all that useful, but now with it being an RGB histogram, it actually gives you the exposure values of the red, green, and blue channels, which makes this histogram a lot more useful out in the field. But what makes it even more useful is what you have on the right side of the histogram, and these are color channel clipping indicators. So if you've used a red DSMC2 camera in the past, it's very similar to that. What's happening basically now is when you start to overexpose the image and you start to clip any color or any of the color channels on the sensor, one of these three or all three, depending on which color channel you're clipping, will light up with the respective color. So if you're starting to clip the red channel, that little red traffic light is going to come on, and so on and so forth. So it makes it really useful for quick run and gun shooting as a quick reference to make sure you're not overexposing or clipping any of your highlights, which is really nice. I don't think it's a replacement for false color, but if you're super run and gun and you don't have the ability to flip over to false color for whatever reason, I don't know what the case may be, but you just can look down at your histogram real quick just to make sure you're not clipping any of your color channels. Super helpful there. One thing I hope they maybe add in the future is maybe a second bar to give you shadows and highlights clipping, so you get an idea if you are losing any of your shadow information as well. So that would be really awesome to have, but still a huge feature and a huge update just on this right here. So really awesome that they added that in there. Really excited for that. Okay, now moving along with exposure tools, we have a false color guide display. So if you see here, just on this side of the screen, we now have a guide to give you an idea of what each of the exposure values mean on their false color spectrum, which is really awesome. So you don't have to go to the manual and reference all that stuff. I do wish there was a way to, and I haven't been able to figure out a way, I don't think there is. I would love a way to be able to toggle that on and off, because for me, I've memorized where that false color spectrum is. I've just, over the years, I just had to memorize it because it wasn't on the monitor itself. It's great they have it on there, but now I've pretty much memorized it. So I wish there was a way to just like toggle that on and off, just so I have a much cleaner monitor. So anyways, not a huge deal that you can't toggle that on and off, but it is really awesome that they actually included it in there, and it'd be great if they gave that to us on the Ursa G2 as well and their other cameras. All right, the next update we have is the LCD screen calibration. So right now here in the setup menu, you have a new menu to be able to calibrate your screen. And when you go here, basically what you're doing is you're gonna adjust it by eye. Now, it'd be really nice if they actually gave us a vector scope or something a little bit more scientific to get this actually accurate, but this is better than before, so I've just made a little bit of an adjustment, just kind of give you an idea of what you can do. And then once you do that, you just hit adjust, and it adjusts really quickly, so you don't have the blue screen, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I mean, it's kind of nice that they gave it to us. It'd be great if there was something a little bit more scientific, but this is definitely better than nothing, and much more improved than having the blue screen of death. All right, next up is autofocus and lens control improvement. I haven't noticed any difference there. I mean, autofocus still contrast based. It's not great, and I don't know, it's not great. So yeah, I haven't really noticed an update on there, so still don't rely on autofocus in any way, shape, or form on these cameras, because you'll be highly disappointed, especially compared to Sony and Canon's autofocus and stuff. Next up, we have importing LUTs. It fixes the issue on the Pocket 6K Pro. It wasn't an issue on the 6K or 4K, but importing LUTs and presets, you can actually do that on the camera now, which is really great because I like to monitor with a LUT that I will be using. So I will load the buttery natural Rec 709 LUT for monitoring, because that's typically my Rec 709 transform LUT that I use to start off grading my Pocket 6K and Ursa G2, all my Blackmagic footage for that matter. So super awesome there. You can actually import LUTs, which is pretty nice, pretty handy feature to have, and was kind of an annoying bug that they finally fixed. All right, next up is timecode. So now you can actually send timecode into the XLR mic inputs as opposed to just the mic input up here, the 3.5mm, which is really nice. And I'm pretty sure that this applies to all the 4K, 6K, and 6K Pro cameras. So yeah, really nice there to have that option there. What I'd like to know is if you can use the timecode in on one of the mic inputs here, and then use the other mic input as an actual microphone input. So that's something I'll definitely have to test in the future, but still, it's great to be able to have that addition to be able to send timecode in the mic inputs. And the last update is improved focus peaking visibility. I think that has to do with the peak, not the colored lines, because I see no difference on the colored lines. But if you like to use the peaking feature as opposed to the colored lines, I guess they improve the visibility, but I've never used that in the past, so I can't comment on if it's better or worse or anything like that. All right, so that is kind of what all of these cameras now have in common, but the 4K and the 6K both got some improvements as well. So first up, the 4K and the 6K, they both have Gen 5 color built into the camera now, which is really awesome. So if you have a 6K Pro or Ursa 12K, or if they ever give us Gen 5 color on the Ursa G2, you can all record in Gen 5 color natively inside of the camera. And if you're recording a Blackmagic RAW, not a huge deal, but if you record in ProRes for whatever reason, maybe your client requires ProRes, or if you're editing in maybe Final Cut Pro that doesn't support Blackmagic RAW natively, ProRes is your best option. And now you have the ability to get Gen 5 color without having to transcode your Gen 4 color and all that. And then the other thing is just monitoring. If you're recording, or if you're going to be grading in editing Gen 5 color, it's great to monitor that on camera, just for a little bit of consistency on set. So having that ability in the camera is really nice on the 4K and 6K. Hopefully that comes to the G2 at some point. Blackmagic, if you're watching, please give it to us, because we all are asking for it. Thank you. Next up, you have the LCD screen dimming feature. So you can set it to 10 minutes or 5 minutes, or a couple of different options. And essentially, I think if it's kind of not been used for 5 or 10 minutes or whatever timeline you set on it, and it'll just dim down to kind of save on power and stuff. So it's a nice little feature. So if you're setting up an interview or something like that, your B camera or whatever, this is your B camera, it'll dim, just kind of save on battery life. So super nice there. And lastly, they gave Q1 and Q3 Blackmagic RAW constant quality recording options on the 4K and the 6K as well. So great to have those different constant quality options depending on your storage and media and all that kind of good stuff. And then lastly, on the 6K, they actually updated it to give 4K DCI Blackmagic RAW recording, which was previously only available on the 6K Pro. So basically this is going to crop into the sensor just like on the 6K Pro, or going down to any other resolution. So you're not going to get the full sensor readout. However, if you, for some reason, if you're out in the field and you run out of storage space on your CFast cards or T5 drive or whatever, and you only have SD cards left, well, you can use your SD cards to record Blackmagic RAW 4K DCI, albeit cropped in, but at least you can continue recording with some cheaper media. So something there to think of. Now, I think that is pretty much all the updates that they have on the camera. If there's anything else, I will leave it in the description below, and I'll leave a link to the software update for your camera and all that kind of stuff. And you don't know how to update your camera, I've made a how-to video how to update the firmware on your Blackmagic camera. So be sure to check that out. If you found this helpful, useful, or anything like that, be sure to, well, I don't know, leave a comment, like, subscribe, or just ignore this and go on to the next video and have fun on the YouTube rabbit trail. So anyways, thank you so much for watching. If you're still here, appreciate it, and hope to see you in the next one. Peace.